Hi everyone, my name is Jane and I own two businesses that are kind of connected, Surface Anthology and Chalk Mercantile. And what this video is about is all the basic tools that you need to start painting furniture with a clay/chalk based paint. Okay, so I'm specifically sticking with that type of paint for this video, and a basic kit you could put together so you could start painting furniture. So the very first thing you're going to need is some paint. Now I have two different kinds of chalk based paints here. This is DIY paint by Debbie's Design Diary. This is the paint that I use the most when painting furniture. It's a beautiful paint. It's a clay-based paint. It has incredible coverage, sticks to anything. What I really love about it is once it's down and dry, I can reactivate it with water and do all kinds of cool effects with it. So it's wonderful. It's got no VOCs, all that good stuff. And it comes in a bunch of really, really beautiful colors. Now, there's there's two types of chalk paint. I'm gonna call this chalk paint, but it's a clay paint, okay? Pretty much the same thing. Chalk and clay are minerals. The other one that I use is called One Step Paint by Amy Howard at Home. Now, this is also a chalk paint, but the big difference is this paint has a built-in top coat. So you're not able to reactivate it once it's down. It's a wonderful paint, but it has a very, very different character. So we're gonna, this is wonderful to use. It's fabulous. It doesn't need to be sealed. But for our purposes today, I'm gonna be talking about a paint like DIY paint. Think Annie Sloan chalk paint. There's all kinds of different chalk paint brands, but make sure when you go to buy the one that you're going to use, you understand if it has a built-in top coat or not. That's really, really important. All right, so you need paint. You need a paint, and you should go in, if you can, and see your local stockist to really see the colors, right? So you can look at a swatch there. Many of us sell it online, but it's hard to tell the actual color when you're looking at it on a monitor, like your phone or your computer, because they tend to run very cool, very blue. So a good thing to do is to get, and I don't have one near me, but get like a little sample pot of a color if you're going to do a big project. So you can use it where it's going to live, paint a swatch, bring it into the kitchen where you're going to paint your cabinets, or the bedroom where you're putting some end tables, so you can see what it looks like there. All right, so you need paint, and then the next thing, of course, you need are brushes. Now, I pulled out a variety of brushes. These are all synthetic bristle brushes, and I've got an oval one here. This is a 35 millimeter oval Authentico brush, right? So you're not, when you put the brush down, you're not going to get that stark line. This is a beautiful brush. I've had it for years. I have a bunch of these, and I use them a lot. The next one is this little pointy brush, a sash brush. This is an extra. This is not something that you really need, but if you do find yourself always painting small pieces, this is a great little brush. But for basics, here are the brushes that I use the most. And these are flat brushes, right? Because they're flat. And this is a 1-inch brush and a 2-inch brush. These are made by Authentico. They're synthetic bristle brushes, and they're fabulous brushes. They lay the paint down. They don't push the paint off. If you use an inexpensive brush that's not made well, you're going to find that you're having trouble getting coverage. It's pushing the paint off your project instead of laying it down. What I find useful, because sometimes I'll be painting bookcases, and when I'm in there, the handle keeps hitting the inside of the bookcase. So I cut off the end of this brush. That's why it's short like that, so I'm not hitting anything. But if you're gonna buy any brush at all, and not even, you know, like you don't wanna buy both, then I would say to buy a 2-inch synthetic bristle brush. A really great one that's made in the United States, hopefully still, is Corona. I used to love Purdy brushes. Something happened. They started splaying when I was using them. So if you're in a hardware store, you can ask if they have Corona brushes and pick up a 2-inch brush. All right, I've got my little cheat sheet here. All right, a cleaner degreaser. So for basic cleaning, you need something. You can't just go over with a damp rag. So I use Clean Slate. This is by Amy Howard at Home. This is a cleaner that gets rid of wax. It gets rid of everything. So, and it's a solvent-based cleaner. So it's fabulous. A really good, another one that's really good basic is Simple Green. And if you get yourself some Simple Green, dilute it with water, spray your piece down, wipe it around, and then rinse it really, really well so there's no residue left. That's very, very important. I don't use Dawn dish soap or any kind of dish soap because it leaves a film. And to me, it's like that's something that I then have to deal with getting off. So Clean Slate's great. Simple Green is great. There are other furniture cleaners that different lines make, and they're made specifically for cleaning furniture. Those are great too because they're not going to get sudsing, you know, if you don't rinse it all off. So there you go. That's something that you have to have. Okay, the next thing, really inexpensive, but I can't live without them, are sanding blocks. Now, you can buy sheets of sandpaper, right? I prefer a sanding block because it keeps itself flat, right, if I need to sand. I don't want to be sanding with a sheet and pressing down with my fingers, and the parts where my fingers are pressing are getting more sanded than the other parts. So this really resolves that. They're super inexpensive, and I love them. I keep mine for a long time because sometimes when they're worn down a little bit, I'll use it for distressing methods where I don't want to take away too much. So you gotta have your sanding blocks. They're fantastic. All right, when you're all done painting, you need wax. You need to seal, or a matte sealer or a glossy sealer, depending on what your vibe is. But you need to seal your paint. And remember, we're talking about a chalk clay-based paint that does not have a built-in sealer or a top coat, all right? So there are a lot of different waxes. There are cake waxes. These are Amy Howard at Home, right? And they come in a cake like this. They could be a slightly fussy or have a little bit of a learning curve to apply. These are wonderful. These again are the DIY waxes, really nice. You put this on, you brush it on. You don't need to then try to remove any, right? Nothing. You brush on a beautiful, you know, thin veil of a coat, let it dry, you're good to go. And it comes in different colors. There's another one. These are like liquid waxes. Again, these are by a maker studio, which is Amy Howard. And these are really nice to apply also. Now for a sealer, and I tend to be a waxer, I have the Amy Howard at Home matte sealer here that I actually really, really like because you cannot tell that there is a, you know, a poly on the paint. So this is a beautiful matte sealer, and you can use wax on top of this once it's dry, right, for an effect. Maybe you want to add a metallic wax, But just remember, the wax isn't getting absorbed into the paint and it's going to take longer to cure. So this is a great sealer. Okay, now lint-free cloths, rags, anything like that. I bought a bunch of these microfiber cloths ages ago. I use them for everything. So if you're sanding, you need to sand the edges of a board before you paint it. You would wipe away with this and you could throw it into the wash. These are fabulous. The other thing, I buy them by the pound, are cotton cloths like this that are lint-free. And they're great for buffing, for effects, if you want to stipple or use rag rolling or whatever. These are really good. They're inexpensive. And again, they can be laundered. So those are a must. Painter's tape. Now, I'm pretty picky about painter's tape, and I've been using frog tape for years and years and years. I love it. It doesn't pull up the paint. It keeps a really crisp, nice edge, and I just love it. It comes in different thicknesses. So if you need tape, this is a really, really good multi-use tape. It's fabulous. Okay, of course you need drop cloths. I just buy drop cloths on, either at Home Depot, on Amazon, and I cover everything with them and throw them in the wash. You can also go to Goodwill, which is another great place, and pick up some old sheets. Bring them home, launder them, fold them, and have them ready to put under your projects. They're fantastic. You can also go and get old t-shirts and things at Goodwill and just cut them up and use them. We just want to make sure, especially when we're buffing a waxed finish, that there's no lint. We don't want lint because the lint will get embedded in the wax and give your piece a hazy glow. So we don't want that. Okay, you need stir sticks. I just use tongue depressors. You gotta stir your paint. You can shake it, that's fine. I tend to like to stir it and bring everything up from the bottom. That's what I use. Paint bowls, something to put your paint into. You'll see a lot of people working out of their can, right, of paint. I don't do that because what you're doing as you're brushing away, maybe you're painting the inside of your piece, everything you're picking up on that brush, you're then depositing right back into your can of paint. And this is going to contaminate the paint, introduce all kinds of stuff you don't want in it. And if you've got a beautiful white that you're using and you're introducing, dust, dirt, and debris, it's just going to make a mess. So you want to pour your paint out into a bowl. And again, I love Goodwill. This is just a little Fire King, those custard dishes. And I have stacks of these. And I use them over and over and over again. I love them. So pour your paint into a separate container before you start using it. So you need your paint bowls. A project piece. Now this is the last part because I'm going to go on a little bit with optional supplies after this. A lot of people say, I don't know what to paint. I'm really nervous. What should I do? And I get that. I totally understand that. And again, get yourself to Goodwill or a local thrift store. This was $6.99 and it is a wooden jewelry box, right? Isn't this fabulous? This is the perfect piece to start. Perfect. Because it's like a little miniature piece of furniture. In fact, it is a little miniature piece of furniture that you could paint and not get overwhelmed. A sample pot will easily paint this whole thing. And you can experiment. You can play with it. And all these little pieces of hardware are screwed in, so you unscrew them. You can experiment with the hardware. So these are fabulous to start with. So get yourself to Goodwill and pick up a piece like that. I also have just a little board here, a little piece of plywood. This is great too. A lot of people that are my customers or members in my membership are very nervous about starting, right? So you gotta just start. You just have to begin and do something that's not intimidating, like this little piece of wood or that jewelry box. Because once you start, you're gonna gain confidence, you're gonna learn skills, and you're gonna be painting everything. All right, quickly, optional things to add to your kit. A paint strainer, you could get that at a paint store in case you do introduce something into your paint, like there's lumps or something. You just pour your paint through a paint strainer and you've got a nice creamy paint to start with. Foam brushes and rollers, a lot of people will use those foam brushes. I don't, but a lot of people do and they love them for putting on a matte sealer like this one, or for different effects, you know, for painting. So that's something to think about. Ones I do use all the time are little detail brushes, and I just use artist brushes for this. And I'll use them to paint out details, to touch up, that kind of thing. These are inexpensive and they're wonderful to have, so you won't get frustrated. Oh, a screwdriver. And this is just a plain straight screwdriver. I have another one in my I have a little toolbox that has this side, the straight, and then a Phillips head on the other side, because you need to remove your hardware. So make sure you have one nearby, again, so you don't get frustrated, use a butter knife, bend it, and, you know, just want to give up. All right. For prep and safety, I do have a mask that I'll use in case I'm using something called bullseye shellac, right? This is a wax-free shellac that if you find yourself getting into this and you want to seal something because it's bleeding, that means the tannins from the wood or the previous finish are coming through. This is what I love to use, is bullseye. And I will put a mask on. I'll also open up the windows because it's got a really, really strong smell. Of course, an apron. You want to have an apron, or like, and also wear old clothes because I tend to get paint everywhere. Wood fill, wood putty. Now, this is what I use. It's DAP Drydex. I love it. It goes on pink, it turns white. It's not literally a wood putty, but I really, really love it and I use it all the time. So this is what I use, but I have some kind of wood fill. And then of course you need putty knives, right? Here's a real old one I've had forever. It's falling apart, but I love it. Here's another one with a different shape. So you want to have that. Distressing tools. Now, ones that I love for distressing, of course, we go back to our sanding block. I have these little scrapers that I'll use, right? These are distressing tools. Steel wool is really wonderful. And my favorite, which I don't have it right near me, I forgot to bring it over, is a natural sea sponge for wet distressing. So those are other things that you can have as you move into this. And that is pretty much it. I just wanted to show you my misting bottle. This is inexpensive. Another thing that you can add to your toolbox and it helps when you're blending. It helps to just spray something if you're creating an effect like a drip effect, or if you want to add water to your paint, right? When you put it in your bowl, you just add a little bit of this water if you need to thin your paint. This has been wonderful. I absolutely love it. And of course, soap and water. And I don't have my bar in front of me, but I use, and this is to wash your brushes. You really need to take good care of your brushes. I use scrubby soap. I've used it for years on my brushes, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. But many lines have their own soap. specifically for brushes, and I highly recommend that you use a real brush soap just to keep your brushes in good shape. The last thing I want to show you, and I didn't write it when I was talking about wax, but when you're applying waxes, I prefer and I really recommend that you use a natural bristle brush. You could use a cloth. The issue with that is, what I find is most of the wax ends up in the cloth and not on your piece. With a brush, you're literally brushing it onto the piece. That's where we want it to go. For big projects, for furniture, this is my go-to. It's a natural bristle with a domed head. I love this brush. I have many of them. And I label them clear, and then I'll have one for black and brown wax, and then other ones for colored waxes. Okay, that way I don't, as much as we try to wash these and keep them clean, we don't want brown wax being left in here, and then you go to wax a white piece with clear wax and all of a sudden you see streaks. That's why I have one just for clear waxes. And then I use these are by Amy Howard at Home. These are like glorified chip brushes, and there's a big difference between these and chip brushes. And I will use these for waxing, especially when I want to create a strié effect with like a colored wax over clear, because of this irregular, end here. Waxing an entire piece of furniture with one of these is pretty frustrating because they're so small, right? So that's when I go to this. So these are more for smaller pieces and special effects. So that's it for what I use. You'll see I have a ruler. That's another fun thing to have if you're laying out a design and stuff. But this is pretty much my go-to when I'm working on furniture, and I use this stuff over and over and over again. But make sure you refer, there's a PDF that goes along with this, and I have broken this down into the basics, basics, nice to haves, and optionals, right? So that way you could see when you start adding stuff on what I recommend. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Any questions, please reach out and ask, and I will do my best to answer them. If you're interested in going deeper into furniture and decorative painting, consider joining the Surface Anthology membership. It's a monthly membership where every month you get a very detailed multi-lesson workshop. You get a live tutorial every month, along with that, a live Q&A, a Facebook group, and there's so much more. The women that are in the membership are wonderfully creative and talented and very, very generous. They're very much supportive of each other in this journey. Again, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and happy painting.